The Pentagon saying today that more forces are heading to the region. Secretary of State Marco Rubio just said that the next stage of the operation will be even more intense. Iranian attacks have claimed the lives of 6 United States service members. Both Donald Trump and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, have said that more American casualties are expected. In what the United States military calls a, quote, apparent friendly fire incident, 3 United States fighter jets were shot down in Kuwait. This video shows one of those jets plunging to the ground. All crew members survived and all are safe. Early this morning, Iran began attacking energy installations in the Gulf, launching hundreds of missiles and drones at U.S. allies that are hosting U.S. military bases, Qatar, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. Further afield, fighting erupted along Israel's northern border after Hezbollah launched rocket strikes at Israel. The conflict appears to be expanding and growing as Team Trump offers conflicting and incoherent answers on just about every aspect of this war. There appears to be no stated goal that is clear or publicly known in terms of how or when or why it ends. There's no answer to how long the operation is expected to last. At a Medal of Honor ceremony, where in between talking about the conflict Donald Trump has plunged our country into, he mused about the ballroom that he's building. Trump said the war in Iran would take weeks, but maybe longer. Listen.
We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it.
4 to 5 weeks or far longer than that is what's being publicly stated. Wall Street Journal is reporting that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, has raised concerns about running down the stockpile of munitions in the longer version that's been articulated. The Washington Post reports this, quote, inside the Pentagon and among some members of the Trump administration, there were deepening concerns on Sunday that the Iran conflict could spiral out of control, according to people familiar with the situation. There is anxiety among senior leaders that the fighting will extend for weeks, further stressing limited U.S. air defense stockpiles, end quote. As for that timeline, Donald Trump told Axios that he could, quote, end it in 2 or 3 days. So all these different and conflicting timelines have been stated publicly by Donald Trump and his cabinet. 2 or 3 days, weeks, or, quote, much longer. Trump also told the New York Times that he had, quote, 3 very good choices as to who could lead Iran after an Israeli strike killed Iran's supreme leader. But then he told ABC's Don Carl that possible candidates to succeed the Ayatollah were killed in that strike, saying this, quote, the attack was so successful, it knocked out most of the candidates. It's not going to be anybody that we were thinking about because they are all dead. Second or third place is dead, end quote. As for the why we have attacked Iran now, Donald Trump told the Washington Post that regime change was the goal of the war. Quote, all I want is freedom for the people, end quote. Now, that's fine, but it is a complete and total abandonment of the public platform Donald Trump has run for president on across 12 years for 3 elections. It also contradicts what he and his own officials are saying is the stated public goal of the operation. 7 minutes ago on Capitol Hill, United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the objective of the mission was to destroy Iran's missile capabilities. Donald Trump himself said this morning that the country had been facing an urgent threat from Iran. Watch that moment.
An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat to the Middle East, but also to the American people. Our country itself would be under threat, and it was very nearly under threat.
It was very nearly under threat. Multiple outlets, including CNN and Politico, report that Pentagon officials are saying something very different to members of Congress. Politico reporting this, quote, the administration briefed some Hill staffers Sunday on the operation, but officials did not present clear evidence the Iranians were preparing an imminent attack on U.S. troops. the conflict with Iran threatening to expand as the Trump administration fails to articulate an end goal or a justification, or to share the same script in terms of articulating why we struck, when we struck, is where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. New York Times diplomatic correspondent Michael Crowley joins us. Also joining us, Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. He served as the commanding general of the United States Army in Europe. Former Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman is with us as well. She led the U.S. negotiating team that reached an agreement on the Iran nuclear deal in 2015. And here with me at the table for the hour, former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Obama, now the co-host of Pod Save the World, if only it could, contributor Ben Rhodes is here. I want to start with the news that two more service members have lost their lives in this war against Iran. General Hertling, let me start with you. Let me read from CENTCOM's account on X. As of 4 p.m. at Eastern Time, March 2nd, 6 United States service members have been killed in action. U.S. forces recently recovered the remains of two previously unaccounted for service members from a facility that was struck during Iran's initial attacks in the region. Major combat operations continue. The identities of the fallen are being withheld until 24 hours after next of kin notification. So if we could just center ourselves on the very real consequences of matters of war and just center ourselves in the why it matters. Why it matters that today o'clock, Marco Rubio and Donald Trump offered two different rationales for why, as of 4 p.m. Eastern on March 2nd, 6 service members have lost their lives. Your thoughts?
It is for these kinds of reasons, Nicole, that the American people are informed, Congress is informed about what the administration is going to do. When men and women, our nation's sons and daughters, are put into harm's way, people should understand why. And that's connected to the other thing that you were saying, and that is we're not sure the why yet. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? How long is it going to go? All the things that really should consume both the Congress and the American people are not being stated. 6 so far, a couple of airplanes shot down. One of the things that I'm concerned about, first of all, bless all of them who have sacrificed. That's what they know they may have to do when they raise their hand to join the service. But the other thing that's fascinating to me is the names have not been released yet of the first 4, even the first 3. There are several thousand people throughout several thousand military members throughout the Middle East. There are parents, there are spouses, there are children who are wondering if their son or daughter, their mother, their father are one of those 6 that have been killed. So there's a whole lot of people right now who are concerned that they may be affected. And as both the Secretary of Defense said this morning and also the President and Secretary Rubio just said the same thing, there may be more. So for that reason, I think the mission set should be adequately defined. You know, we go through these things called the war colleges, the military does. And there's a big joke at the end because they say you can sum up your entire year studying strategy in 4 key words. Number 1, always take, or 4 key sentences. Always take the high ground, both morally and physically. Words are important, so be precise. Logistics determines the art of the possible, and personalities matter. Each one of those things are playing a part, those minor things are playing a part in the strategy right now that we don't know much about.
Michael Crowley, let me just make sure my understanding meshes with your tremendous reporting along with your colleagues today. In terms of the length, these are the public communications about the duration of the war with Iran. 1 to 3 days, 4 to 5 weeks, or longer, which Trump has said it, I think 4, 5, or 6 times in reporting that I read today. And then on the reasons, Marco Rubio just said over and over again, it was their missile capabilities. Trump has posted and talked about regime change and the Ayatollah, and not just the Ayatollah, but his second and third in command, who were his runner-up choices to run the country. So clearly in Trump's mind, as our commander-in-chief, there wasn't just a target, but there was a conversation or some information he consumed about who would replace the Ayatollah Khomeini. Am I missing anything?
Well, possibly, because the administration is messaging in such an unusual way. President Trump is fielding phone calls from reporters and having these brief snippets of conversations all over the place. He's released some videos. He made some comments today. And, frankly, it's very difficult to keep track of everything he's saying. And compounding that is the fact that it's all over the map. So, in reality, no, I don't think you're actually missing anything. You've got the key points here. But what I'm trying to convey is the messaging here it's like a shotgun blast. It's pellets of information and fact and opinion flying all over the place. It's really hard to make sense of, Nicole. And, so is the timeline a couple of days? Is the timeline several weeks? One thing I don't think I heard you mention, which really struck me, was in one of the interviews the president gave today. I believe it was with the New York Post. He was a little bit, I think you could say, arguably flip about the possibility of putting boots on the ground in Iran. And he said something like, I don't rule it out. I don't get the yips like a lot of other presidents do on that subject, which is, just a little bit an odd way to be talking about this incredibly consequential possibility. And, what it just amounts to is a real haze of confusion about what's really going on here and whether the president himself was really clear on why he was doing this. Was it just the kind of his frame of mind in a given moment when he signed on? Did he have a clear game plan here? And maybe there is a clear game plan and the administration is changing its mind about how to explain it. But there has just not been a clear, succinct, consistent message from this president especially and his entire administration about why the U.S. began this campaign, what its goals are, and what the American people should expect.